huge, cool guest here. We're going to be talking about commercial property loan financing with none other than Big Harvey. Harvey, I'm excited about this. Wow. You've been doing this stuff for a long time, commercial finance. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kick it off.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. I'm just a guy that's been in mortgage lending for a long time. It's about 36 years now.
That's a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It may have been longer, but I refuse to admit it.
Yeah, I get
that. But yeah, I started off in conforming lending, and I was there for years. Helped grow a bunch of different companies, and I moved on to really, well, I guess subprime. In its prime, I actually identified lenders that were doing it, and we decided to start doing those types of things. So I was always on the edge of what was new. So I identify it, and I always like that new shiny thing. It's like people that love technology. You just gotta try it out before anybody else does.
Yeah.
And, I always managed to do that. So going through the years and through a few moves, and certainly a few locations for me, I have run companies that did billions in the region that I was in, and I've run small companies, father and son lending, which was my company I had with my son. So commercial lending just kind of came natural. It was one of the things I identified early on when people started looking at fix and flips. There were a couple of companies that came out with non-QM-ish products, and I noticed that the investor side of that was really intriguing. I've always been intrigued by the investor piece of it. And, it was, I decided to take a chance on what would happen if I jumped into this, and how would this look if we started lending these types of things, and who else is lending them. So, it's kind of the really brief version of what I've done over my history, but commercial lending is something I absolutely love. It's a great experience for anybody that gets into it as far as buying. And, it's minimal torture compared to a conforming forward type of loan for the borrowers. They come with the same information. It either works or it doesn't work, or we find you a place where it will work. And so that's the summary of Harvey.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of funny to try to bring it all in the 5-minute little bio, because obviously you've done a lot. I mean, you've done a lot. Obviously, you're well known in the industry from the sounds of it. So hold on, you mentioned something pretty big: technology. In my opinion, there's not that much technology in the space of commercial property loan origination. Mention a little bit about, well, if you think it is if it's old school still, versus what it potentially looks like in the future. What are your thoughts about technology as it relates to commercial property loan origination?
I would wish that there'd be some way to create what's been created on the conforming side, which is easier applications. And I know that you're working on some of these things, and you guys have done a great job. But as far as what's out there, it's really scattered with loan origination systems. A lot of them are really kind of one-offs from the conforming side. They're trying to be everything to everybody. And as a matter of fact, I was just talking to somebody for a big company that's in the fix and flip space, and that they've gone through 2 large vendors of technology, and they just haven't been able to find something that works. So technology to me there's 2 pieces of that. I love technology. It makes life easier for both the borrower and for the lender in that case. And it just makes the whole process go quicker when done correctly. I'm kind of a old-fashioned person that I think everybody should pick up the phone too, versus emailing or texting back. So, I'm a tech geek with a side of pick up the damn phone.
No. I totally get that. I'm fight within myself, because I like the people element, obviously, number one. Then number 2, I want things done quickly, so I like the technology. And of course, sometimes technology breaks. But I think sometimes if you have good technology, it'll bring down the rate, so it's better for the client. But
Absolutely.
it's kind of a fight. It is a big fight between the 2.
Well, there's always that. I mean, the cost to produce a loan is so much less with good technology.
Yeah.
And that's why I really wish on the commercial side that they have somebody, and I'm sure I'm going to annoy somebody out there who's got technology and they think it's great, but none of us have actually found that perfect thing. I mean, you never find the perfect type of technology,
Sure.
but from the commercial side, it's not. To me, it isn't as close to where we want to be as the conforming side is.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the rules on conforming and Fannie, Freddie, any kind of securitized is there's guardrails,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to be in between those guardrails. And with commercial, it's a little more Wild West into what you'd approve. Every lender out there, you can go to 3 different banks and you'll get 5 different underwriting guidelines.
Totally.
So yeah, and so that's really the hard part is how do you build a system for people that can't even explain what they do to begin with?
Yeah, you're right. Fear not. We're working on it at vastsolutionsgroup.com, but it's a challenge. I do agree with you. But, because we looked at it, all these years, we have brought AI technology, Einstein, our platform, to tax and lowering tax, a little bit into finance. And now we're starting to do that with commercial property loan origination. Our expectation is down the road that will hit, but it's incredible how long it's taken for the whole process as an industry. But now, actually, talk to me about the industry. Like, how has the industry changed? Let's not talk about technology, but what would you say the industry, or how has the industry changed since 30 something years ago to where we are now in general, without talking about technology, but other elements of the business?
You think I can remember that far back? Um,
Nice. Yeah.
I wasn't around that. I was only like 6 years old.
Of
So,
course. Of course. Yeah.
I mean, I was doing mortgages, but I was young. Um,
You are young still. Come on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You can tell by the golden locks. The funny thing is, it's been a culture of innovation has always been what mortgage lending is.
Hmm.
Sometimes they push it a little bit too far, subprime, but the innovation is still there, maybe a little more curtailed. But I don't know that the theory and the vision behind mortgage lending has changed. It's evolved, I think, more than it's changed. From the commercial side, really what you've gone from is bank lending to private lending, balance sheet lending, and obviously it's the securitizations now. So each one of those brings a different layer of specialization in the business. But from the standpoint of what's changed, you know what? Every time a new year came around, there was a new product out there.
Mm-hmm.
Good, bad, or indifferent. Whether it was, they used to call it. Oh goodness, what it was? It was you had 125% financing. That was a great idea. It's they were doing the same thing with equity loans in the heat of the rise in values. They were giving 150% out, and everybody was jumping on board. What a great product! We can make a lot of money on this. But everybody was always trying things. Some people were smart, and some people were just chasing the dollar. And I don't know it's changed that much. I mean, the rules changed, the guidelines changed, and certainly the concern about the borrowers not getting the wrong end of the stick. They still do sometimes, but it's a little safer out there.
I'm
not sure if that answered your question, but
no, you did. Basically, the fundamentals are still there.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I said mention everything relative to everything being outside of technology, but really, what you're saying is it's kind of the basis is there, and luckily, it hasn't changed. I guess in some cases, that's a good thing in that respect, outside of technology.
No, absolutely. And then, of course, the closing process has changed, and that now you can do a remote closing or an online closing, and so those things are coming more. So they're not really in commercial right now, but those things will head that way to make the process quicker. I mean, right now you can get a commercial loan done in a week in some places if it's an asset-based loan, which is far quicker than you can on a conforming loan. So there's different things that involve that blending of the old type of lending, or similar to the old type of lending, but technology, and that's kind of what I know you're heading towards that, which is great. You guys are doing a great job with that, but it's just not there yet, only because there's not a lot of buy-in, and nobody wants to buy in because they don't want to be the same as anybody else either. So
True, totally.
That's the hard part. And in reality, if you decide to build a system and sooner or later everybody else is going to copy it, then you don't want that either. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
it's I mean, the first thing when I talk to somebody about technology is, can you put together best practices, which is
Yeah.
basically what did everybody else do because they want to see it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's we'll get there on the commercial side.
I understand. So, what would you say for someone? Let's just say someone were like a real estate agent, and they wanted sorry, a single resident mortgage broker. What would you say to someone who wants to get into the commercial space now?
Yeah. As far as selling, or
Yeah, as being a loan origination officer, is it a good
okay.
time now? Was it a better time 5 years ago? What are your thoughts there?
Actually, from the commercial side, it's a great time now. And the reason being is if you understand what you want to do, or have an idea of here's where I want to be, here's the market I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in a New York market is going to be very different from somebody that's in a Georgia market,
Mm-hmm.
and what types of properties are selling out there. The thing is that unlike the conforming side, there's a lot less people that have experience in commercial lending.
Mm-hmm.
You have the higher groups, the larger companies, Bercadia, those large companies that are doing, 20 million to $100 million.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily where you're going to be. You want to deal with somebody who's going to take time to train you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be dealing with really the 5 to 20 unit buildings, the ones that are kind of falling in with probably somewhere between $2 and $10 million as far as cost. And if you find a place like that, you will get trained in most cases, or at least you'll have a good understanding of what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, the information that you get really is, or the information that you'll need to get or understand is basic. You're going to get a hit list of here's what we need. So you're either going to have asset-based lending, and you want to make sure that the asset is correct, and they have the capital to do it,
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to get a DSCR kind of loan, which the property affords itself with a small margin above that. Or you're just going to get a traditional Freddie Mac loan where you're going to have to show a couple of years of finances. You're going to have to show history, and you need to learn those things. But there's only 3 or 4 things you need to learn on commercial side.
Mm.
On the conforming side, you have to learn a lot more than that.
Everything.
And there's a lot of nuance. You have to learn the disclosure rules, compliance rules.
Yeah.
Not that you shouldn't anyway, but there's a whole bunch of stuff. It was funny. When I went back and took the NMLS test,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been in the business forever, I looked at that in the training and I said, oh my God, I don't remember any of this. Yeah. Luckily, I passed. It took me 40 times, but about $10,000 in fees. But no, it was one of those things where most of it came back, but it's like, oh, geez, you know what? I forgot how hard it was on that side. It's just not easy for those guys.
I think people are intimidated on that side. They think, oh my gosh, big commercial buildings, you add on a 0 or 2 zeros, so it's scary. But I think a lot of cases, people should go into commercial property finance because, for one, I think it's more challenging. It's more exciting, I would say.
Yes.
But it is, I think, more intimidating in some cases. But I think it makes a lot of sense to go down that road.
The thing is, when you get a borrower who's in commercial, or they're experienced doing it, that borrower comes to you with information, unlike the conforming or forward lending, where you have to dig that information out. It doesn't mean you still don't have to do it in a commercial, but if you have somebody that's had experience, 5, 10 buildings in the last few years, they're already knowing what they have to put together, and they give it to you.
Yep.
Whether it's personal financial statement, a couple months bank statements, the scenario. I mean, asking for an executive summary. That's like the best thing in the world, mainly because if you don't know what's going on, they'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. I know, huh?
You can fake it. It's great.
All right, so this is going to be a tough question. Are you ready for this one?
Go for it.
So what's one scenario, one case study where you've completely added value to a client, a borrower? Meaning, let's say they had a really messy set of books, as an example, or they just had no way of getting a loan, and somehow you became the hero. Give us one example how Harvey Goldberg really came in to save the day as far as commercial property loan origination.
Wow. Okay, this is a weird one. It's funny that you said that. This one just popped up in my head. There was a gentleman who had, oh my goodness, he had something like 20 industrial properties, warehouses, factories. There was a whole bunch of things. And on its basis, it was actually pretty easy. A couple of them, he ran into problems. They were vacant. And we tried to do these as a portfolio. The problem we ran into, it was the entire group was a TIC, which is tenants in common.
Okay.
And there were 220 members of the TIC.
Oh, okay.
And he had to get agreement on every one of them to refinance. And so we, this was a 3-month process, going through the financials, having to listen to strange people who I never heard from before saying, "Hi, I'm one of the owners. I need information." And so this went on for 3 months. And I mean, it was a huge deal. But the point was, everybody was fighting with each other. It was like I never saw such a group of disjointed people that own property in my life. So, and we ended up getting the thing done for them. And it was a large deal. And it took us 3 months to get it through. But, at the end of the day, he was like, "Thank you." Yeah. "Thank you very much. I appreciate that." Because he knew what we went through.
You're such a nice guy. I could see you doing that. Me, on the other hand, I would have hated that process. But I could see you, really holding the hands of all 300 people and really working the process through, and then you getting the loan. That's awesome.
You don't know me.
All right, so
I was very much, here's what I need. If you don't understand it, call me back. If you don't have it, goodbye.
Yeah, I understand. I totally get it. So what's one thing that you think really adds value to a borrower as far as getting a loan? What's the one thing that every borrower should really think about in bettering their chance of getting a commercial property loan?
Experience. Bottom line on commercial, experience is a key. Mm-hmm. You can make exceptions on a loan. You can get exceptions on a loan, I should say, mm-hmm. For various things, but you can't get an exception on experience. If mm-hmm. you're going to buy, or if you want to do a ground up construction of a strip mall, let's say, you better have experience doing a strip mall. Mm-hmm. Because there's no way that you're accidentally going to be correct when you start doing this.
Yeah.
You're just not going to know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I don't care who is advising you. If you haven't been burned, it's the same thing. You can go back to the small fix and flips. It's the reason that they lend less on leverage on a fix and flip property, whether it's a single family or 100 units. The thing is, if you haven't done it before, you don't know what happens. You don't mm-hmm. know that your favorite inspector, who's your cousin, who's done some work on drywall before, didn't realize that you have knob and tube wiring, and that now, even though you gave us an estimate of $10,000 to rehab the whole house because you thought wallpaper will look nice and rugs, then you realize you have to rewire the entire house and it's out of code, and and then when you realize you go up into the rafters, your roof's been leaking and you need to change all your sheathing, mm-hmm. and to look for these things if you've done it. You've probably been burned a couple times, if you've done it 3 or 4 times. And so experience is huge. And on larger loans, you're really not going to lend to somebody that doesn't have experience. You may get financing if your loan to value is really low, 50%, mm-hmm. 60%. And granted, I have to say, whenever I say something like that, there's always a loan out there for somebody. Doesn't mean that you can't find financing. But in general, 90% of what you're looking for is somebody. I mean, the obvious part is they have to have capital, but
that helps.
Yeah, it's a plus. And the other side is you just have to know what you're doing, and then the other things you can work on. Do we need an accommodation on something here? Maybe the reserves you want less reserves, or you want a little longer time period, or there's a whole bunch of smaller pieces that you can work around, but you can't work around experience and money.
Well, I guess, so if you say that's maybe not mandatory, but very, very important, how does someone who's, let's say, 25, 28 years old, and they want to get in the business, do you think they should, meaning in commercial property purchasing buildings. Would you say they should partner up with someone who's a little bit more senior, someone who's got experience?
And that's actually the most successful ones I've seen have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's with the builder that they're using,
Mm-hmm.
and they offer up a piece of that. There are some lenders out there that will actually take a piece of the profits and invest in a property,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully give a little bit of insight into it. But most often, the people that I've seen out there are partnered up with somebody who has more experience than they do.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can get a loan as a first time borrower,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to be on smaller properties, and you're going to have more equity. You're
Mm-hmm.
just going to have to come up with more capital, and your reserves are going to have to be higher because we know, no matter how good you think you are, you're going to screw up somewhere. Something's
Mm-hmm.
going to cost more than you thought it would.
Yep.
Well,
And of
something's
course,
going to be wrong.
of course, the banks worry because it's their money and they don't want to look bad by having bad loans on their books. So it only makes sense to partner up in some cases, and that's where you're
Oh yeah.
saying there's some
Well, you got to
success.
remember, a lot of people look at these things and they think that she's like, you know what, I can make $80,000 on this, because the house down the street sold for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the house down the street sold for that. Maybe 6 months ago. Markets changed. You
Mm-hmm.
forgot that you have to have a realtor. You forgot that there's inflation on costs as you're building things. That there's always things that you have to do that you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the worst part of some of these shows on TV is that according to them, you can rehab an entire house in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But if you look at that, you go, geez, I can do that. And my uncle's a plumber. It's, he only has 2 fingers left, but he's a really good plumber.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can do the electrical. It's just a wire.
Yeah.
So, you got to go in with realistic expectations, and you have to build your portfolio of what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. So let's say in 2 minutes, let's kind of wrap up. So what would you how can you what words of advice would you give to even a senior person? You've been around for a while. I consider you a super senior person, not meaning seniors
I don't
as
know.
an age,
You're
an
getting on my
experience,
nerves now with that.
as an experience. What would you say to the very experienced person, really, that they may not have thought about with respect to commercial finance, that maybe they should be thinking about, that hopefully will enrich them in some way?
You know what? The guys that are in this, I don't know how much I can give them for any kind of quotes that make sense. But I think for now, if I was going to suggest anything to anybody,
Mm-hmm.
only because I just ran into it an hour before this call, but don't wait for the rates to go as low as you think they're going to go,
Mm.
because that's just not going to win. They're reading or they're guessing that rates are going to drop, and they've actually risen on commercial because it's short-term rates.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part too is if you're going to wait until June or July or whatever it is when everybody is they think that's the time period, then that's great. They may go down. They may go down 0.5%, whatever that number is. But if volume picks up, what are the properties selling for now?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and you have flattening rents. And right now is a great time to be picking up these properties.
Yeah.
So staying on the sideline for a lower interest rate is never a good business model. You can always refinance. Do what you need to do on the properties, fix them up, but it's crazy to sit on the sideline for an interest rate when you can get a great deal on a property.
You're 1,000% right. Like, it makes no sense. I'm making these numbers up, but let's say a property was worth $5 million, whatever, back in the day, a little while ago, and now because of interest rates or whatever, it's worth 2.5. But you think, I want interest rates to go lower. Well, it might be too late at that point. Right now is a great time to buy, especially commercial properties. I think for people who are residential investors, now they go into commercial. I mean, I really believe that. I really, really do.
Well, I'm with you all the way. I mean, the other side too is, there's people looking for office spaces or office buildings. And truthfully, if you're in the right area, it's probably a great time to pick those up. Severely depressed, and there's times that you can do alternate things with them. The question is what? It has to be the right property. But the realization is you can go in and get something at a really depressed market value, and it's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of picking and choosing the right thing, but never wait for the rates to come down. You have no control over it. You have control over what you can purchase now. And you know that in the future, all right, you know what? Bottom line is, if you're going to sell this property and you're going to rehab it, then if rates in fact do come down, you know the value of that property is going to be going up. You just sell it for more money.
Yeah, totally. You're
I
preaching to
don't
the choir
get
there. You're 100% right. I mean, everyone thinks it makes, everyone knows it makes, when you make money, when you buy in real estate, also by being a contrarian, generally speaking, right? People only buy when the market's at its peak, right? And they sell at the downside, then they end up losing money. But then again, I think most of the people who are watching and listening to this will really understand that, it takes guts to buy on the downside. But then again, that's when you make your money.
What was Wayne Gretzky's famous line? Was when somebody asked him how he scores so many goals, and he said, "It's easy. I don't go where the puck's going. I go where it's going to be."
Yeah. Yep.
And that's really what this is. It's simple, but no, it's it just, to me, it makes all the sense in the world. And I've seen it over and over again over the years that nobody ever wins playing rate.
Yep.
I mean, you win if you've lowered your rate, I guess, but if you're an investor, it's not a good game plan.
Yeah, I understand. I totally understand. So let's land this plane. So, by the way, how do people get a hold of Harvey?
Okay. Well, the easiest way is send $200 in a small envelope. Sorry, I was working on that one.
That was good.
I can be reached at my cell phone, which is always on, 781-910-3700, or Harvey at starcapitalsponsor.com.
Awesome. Or by going to vastsolutionsgroup.com. Again, vastsolutionsgroup.com. You're on our website and click there, and then they'll find your beautiful little face on the website. And then, it's been a pleasure. You like how I said little face? It's been a pleasure, Harvey. I know you have so much experience in the world of commercial property loan origination that someone would be crazy to pass up the opportunity to spend 15 minutes chatting with you. It's your wealth of knowledge.
Always love having a conversation. If I could point somebody in the right direction, more than happy to do that too.
You're the man. Hold on one sec. Awesome, Harvey.